Hello and thanks for stopping by. This is Donkey Kong for the Atari 2600. This was one of the early arcade classics developed by Nintendo and released in the United States in 1982 by Coleco. I'm playing this from a cartridge on a Retron 77, and it's one of those cream-colored cartridge casings that Coleco used to use for some of their Atari releases. I always considered Donkey Kong to be a bit of an acquired taste. I know it's popular and there are world champions out there, but to me this is just a basic high-scoring game with only 2 different levels to navigate through. Now, I know there are many games in the Atari with only 1 level, so I guess this has at least a little variation going for it. The first level, the goal was to make it up the ramps to rescue the princess. This is the first appearance of Mario in video games, too. Anyway, you have 3 lives to play, and Donkey Kong is busy rolling barrels down the ramps to try to crush you. Some barrels roll to the end of the platform and fall down onto the next one, others will turn and just roll down ladders. You have to spend your time running and jumping over all the barrels to make your way up the different ladders to the top. There's a hammer you can grab near the top level, and it lets you crush the barrels that get too close, but I always found this to be a little bit more of a distraction as opposed to a useful tool. You can only crush barrels with it, and you can't climb ladders while you're holding it. You also can't drop it when you want, you have to wait for it to disappear, which is kind of a hassle as it just slows you down. Honestly, I try to avoid it if I can. After you get to the top platform, you climb up to the princess and move on to the next level. The second level is almost a different game. There are no barrels, and instead of climbing up ramps, you have to climb up ladders onto 4 different flat platforms to remove a total of 8 rivets, which loosen the structure. That finishes the level. There are 2 rivets on each platform along with the fireball. That's the enemy on this level. Now, I know they don't look like fireballs, but that's what they're called. They just sort of move back and forth on the platforms, and occasionally they run into you. Your job is to maneuver through the platforms, dodge these fireballs, and remove the rivets. All you have to do is walk over or jump over them, and that removes them. You need to be careful though, because the fireballs, they can't step over the gap you make when you remove a rivet, but if you're standing too close to the edge, a fireball can burn you from the other side if you're just over the gap. They have this odd shape to them, and they can touch you if you're just not being careful. There's a hammer on this level too, but for me it's just as useful as the hammer on the first level, which is not very useful. When you get all the rivets, the level is over, and you go back to level 1. The second time you play through, it's really the same exact thing, it's just a little bit tougher. There's a bonus number at the top of the screen that gets smaller the longer you take on the level. Whatever's left, when you reach the top, it becomes your bonus score. Also, one thing that I find amusing is that Mario has blue shoes, but when he jumps, his shoes disappear, and for a second, he looks like he's wearing those red footy pajamas you sometimes see in old movies. I made that connection once, and now I just can't unsee it every time he jumps. Now, I never had this game as a kid. I've only ever played it at a friend's house, but now that I have it in the collection, I've started playing it. And the thing about this game, and I'm not sure, I can't tell if the game has bad handling, if I'm not good at it, or if my system is somehow contributing to the mix. It just feels like the timing actions in the game are difficult. To climb up a ladder, you have to be in a very specific spot on the floor. Sometimes I find myself struggling to know exactly where I have to stand to climb upwards. It just doesn't seem to be very forgiving when I play. And I don't know, it could just be me. Overall, the game is okay. I think I'm just struggling with the specifics of the handling. Mario just feels like he moves too slow in this game, and honestly, if there's any sort of a pattern, or a reason the barrels sometimes roll to the end of the ramp, or sometimes they just roll down a ladder, I have no idea what that pattern might be. Graphically, this game is also really poor compared to the arcade version. I know the Atari 2600 had a lot of limitations, but there were rumors around this game, and the suggestion was that this game may have been programmed this way for a very specific reason. Donkey Kong was released on multiple systems, one of them being the ColecoVision. The ColecoVision version of this game is considered to be quite good, and by comparison to this game, it looks even better. The rumor is they might have programmed this particular game poorly to try to get people to maybe switch over to the ColecoVision. Maybe. I don't know. It's close to 40 years ago that this came out, so who knows. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for this one. Thanks for taking a few moments to stop by and have a look.